Hi, I'm Tom and I talk about code. Welcome to a very exciting live stream where we're going to be doing some aimless experimentation. It's going to be great. We're going to get Lua running in a web browser using a cool piece of software called Wasmoon, or Wasmoon. I'm not really sure where the break is here, but the idea is that this is a WASM binary, a WASM blob. I don't actually know what you call distributed WASM code, but it lets you do some JavaScript that loads and interacts with Lua. So we're going to try and script some things in the browser using Lua. It's going to be grand. So basically this is going to be our first pass, right? We're going to start, we've got a new project in a new folder called this project Lua thing for now. Let's npm init. I'm not very good with my JavaScript ecosystem setup, but I think we'll be good here just to do some stuff. Let's make the entry point source. I don't think we want an entry point at all. Let's just go straight through this. We'll mit license it. Perfect. Now let's actually just get rid of this, and I think you do private true. Just like, we're not publishing this anywhere, right? That's fine. That's fine. So we're going to set up a little bit of standard JavaScript framework. We're going to webpack this so that it all gets thrown together nicely, and we're going to jump in and try and run some Lua. So let's make a couple of directories. Let's npm install save dev webpack and webpack CLI. I think this is what we're going to do. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm doing here. Cool. So then what do we do? Then let's basically just make an index that does this. You know, like an entry index.js. We'll just paste the basic Lua, Lua blob, Lua loading blob in. We'll get rid of these comments. We don't need comments. We can read. But let's get rid of, kind of this stuff, right? Cool. Okay, this seems like a good place to start, right? So we make a Lua factory, and then from a Lua factory we make a Lua. There's a little bit of boilerplate here that does a few cool sounding things. I believe that garbage... Okay, this doesn't talk about it. GC. Apparently these Lua and JavaScripts don't fight each other for garbage collecting, or, have like one holistic model of garbage collection, as opposed to other versions of this where you have two garbage collectors. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I got my projects mixed up here. But we're going to just poke it a bit. We're going to see how it performs, how it goes, right? It's faster than other competing Lua in the browser implementations, like Fangari, which rewrites everything in JavaScript. So let's see if we can just... There's no semicolons in Lua. Let's see if we can just call some Lua, right? Let's see if we can do this. Let's webpack config. What goes in a webpack config? What goes in a webpack config? Maybe something like this. Oh no, hold on. Okay, I'm copying this from off screen. I did just play around with this a little. So webpack config, right? This is all just really dumb, really standard Node JavaScript ecosystem setup. We're gonna have an entry point that's gonna be source index.js. I don't know if I love the name index, given that, this, I don't know, mains may be a better name, but convention seems to rely on index. There's a little bit of magic we need from here. This is basically what I was, well, yeah, okay, I should have just copied all this from off screen, but let's do this. I think this whole thing just needs to go back a layer. Love it. You may notice a couple of IDE-like features popping up in my NeoVim now. I've added a couple of things to it. So we'll go output, file name, main.js, I guess, and we'll put it in the dist folder. And we don't put trailing commas because JSON. Oh, maybe we do, right? Sure. Why not? I like that more. Cool. So this is enough. We should be able to npx webpack and it's angry at us. But that's awesome. That's awesome. two really cool things to think about here, right? So these errors are actually really good. Node.js has a bit of a reputation, all this Webpack stuff for being hard to use, and if you use complicated bootstraps, I think it is hard to use, but really, if you just make a very simple Webpack config that does a few simple things, and you just run it yourself, you kind of understand all the bits, you get fairly nice errors that you can work from. So, did I mean this? Yes, I did mean this. Let's go in and do exactly this. Now when I run this, we're probably going to get another error because I have forgotten something. Module path, top level await experiment is not enabled. So I'm guessing this is because if we look at this index code, it puts an await here and it puts an await here. So this says that we can enable something, some top level await to deal with this. I don't know, I've got another theory for how we can get around this, and that is to just wrap everything in an anonymous function, an anonymous async function. This is very like old school JavaScript, right? This is what you just used to do to scope your JavaScript before you had Webpack and stuff. We also haven't installed Wasmoon, so let's do that while we think of it. Did I? Maybe I did this. Webpack. Yeah, Wasmoon. There we go. Alright, so what happens on our Webpack? Path, blah blah blah. That sounds okay. One warning. That looks like we're doing real work. Looks like we're doing real work. So, oh god, I love it. Thanks, Webpack. Okay. So we now need a web page that just interprets this. So I'm kind of racing through here. And I'm racing through because I just want to get to the part where I start actually, start actually writing Lua, right? That's what this is going to all be about. And oh, where did this come from? Weird. How many? Okay, let's record a macro to do this. Cool, so now we can just I think you can actually, or not. Cool, that kind of worked. Let's see what happens when we run this. Did this print hello world? We've got some errors. Okay, so we're racing towards actually running Lua here. I did just want to also show the setup as well, because I don't think it'll be that hard, but this looks kind of, WebAssembly response has unexpected MIME type, falling back. So it looks like it can't load the WASM, right? New WebAssembly, yeah, runtime. I don't really know what this is. Let's hit the network and see what's going on. So it's requesting glue.wasm. It's requesting it from localhost twice. So this is probably why, right? We're trying to get glue.wasm and we don't have it. So node modules, Wasmoon, it's not in bin, is it? Yeah, that's just that one file. Glue.wasm. So it's not getting copied by Webpack for some reason, and I don't really understand Webpack, so I'm going to do something dumb just to get this working for now. Wasmoon dist glue.wasm, and I'm just going to copy this into the dist folder and reload this page, and no. We need a better solution for this. And we get hello world. Cool, so that's 10 minutes to get Lua actually running in the browser, right? So we can go back to our source index, and we can just execute arbitrary Lua. That's cool, but this arbitrary Lua can't really do much right now, I don't think. I don't know if there are DOM bindings and stuff, but there's this cool thing we can do. So let's say function, let's actually do it outside of here. Let's make a function, actually no, let's keep it in this like weird namespace. Function, foo, let's take an x and a y. Let's console log. Right, so let's just write a dumb function that does two things. We can say lua.setGlobal, I think setGlobal, if we have a look at the example again that I deleted. Lua.global.set, sorry. Look at, I mean, we actually get the suggestions and everything. Isn't this lovely? So we can set a global thing, let's call it foo, and we can bind it to this function. So we can say foo12 with no semicolon, and if we repack this, so what's going to be interesting, right, is that we're doing this in a way right now where every time we change the Lua, we have to re-webpack, and that's not great. Let's come in. What did I call this? Lua thing. And that's Python 3. Just in the dist folder so that we can just reload this whenever we want. And this prints out our stuff. So we can bind functions into Lua. This is cool. This is primitive, but this is cool. And so this is, you know, kind of the basis for everything that we could ever want to do. Let's manipulate the DOM, right? Let's, in our body, let's say div let's just make some div. Let's go back to index.js. Let's say function. Let's give it the worst name possible. Let's go const document query. So let's put something inside of this element, right? So query selector container x. What's good? What are we doing? Text document dot create node, create element. Let's create a p. Nice. So let's call it p and then text. P dot inner text equals t. X dot append child p. So again, you know, kind of standard DOM manipulation stuff. We're going to grab our container, we're going to make a new paragraph, we're going to set some text in it, we're going to append it to the thing. So when we look at our index.html, you know, new things will get appended in here. And then let's write some Lua that interacts with that. Let's say for I 10 1, I think. Put line on screen. Is that it? Is that how Lua works? I haven't written Lua for a couple of weeks. I've forgotten the syntax, but let's do this. This will compile at least, right? Except we forgot to actually bind this, right? So let's say put line on screen. Repack it. So we're going to start moving this Lua stuff into their own files soon and experimenting with what that looks like. String, syntax error near end of file. Uncaught in promise. Syntax error near end of file. Okay. So we've got a syntax error. We've got a syntax error. And this seems to be cool bytecode. This seems to be inside the Lua code. So this is a syntax error in the Lua. And that's because... God, what's the Lua for loop syntax? Every time I have to look this up. Every time. For I equals end. That's the magic word I'm looking for. I was close. I was really close. We're going to webpack it. It's going to be happy. And we're going to come in. And there we go. So we can manipulate the DOM from Lua. That's cool, right? That's really cool. We can change this to anything we want. Anything we want. You could make it a more sophisticated message. You could also just spam the word wow to the screen a bunch of times. And there we go, right? That's cool. That's really cool. So we've escaped the console log world, and we're now in the wonderful land of DOM manipulation. This is pretty easy. This is pretty cool. So now I've got another question, which is, can we bind a JSON, or like a JavaScript object, right? Can we bind that with set? So for example, can we say, like make some namespace and bind that to some object? And that object might have a method like this. It also might have some like weird x plus y, right? you know, we might have multiple functions inside of some object. Is this now going to be accessible from within Lua? Because this isn't obvious from the documentation. And part of the reason I want to stream this and poke around with it is, you know, I just want there to be video of someone poking it, because I can't really tell how to use this, right? There aren't any examples that I can really see. Create bindings. So I'm guessing this is like some wrapper stuff. Cool. So if I repack this, does this still work? It's going to build, right? This is valid syntax, but is it logically valid Lua? And it looks like it is. That's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. What if... Can I return things in JavaScript into Lua, right? This takes two arguments. Like, does this make sense? Can I, when I do these bindings, when these functions get called, is there some magic that's going to bridge this gap for me? Again, I'm not totally clear. Well, I guess the documentation does have an example of this, right? So it looks like this does just magically work, which is very, very cool. 3. Yeah. Holy crap. This is so effortless. I love this. As much as I wish there was a bit more documentation, it's kind of cool that there doesn't need to be, right? Okay, so let's do something fun with this. Well, okay, so I guess the next thing is, if I go source, let's make a file called stuff.lua, right? Let's go function. What do we want to do from Lua? If x is greater than 5, then print big X, else print small x. End. So let's see if we can make a file and require it. So what happens if I say require local s? Right. Can I arbitrarily grab... Well, I mean, for one thing, right? This needs to be in dist, not source. Cool. So we've got a file called stuff.lua. It's in our dist folder. What happens when we try and require this? Is it going to try and make an XHR request, or do we need to do that machinery ourselves? It can't find stuff. It's looking... Yep. Look at this, look at this. It's using just the normal Lua search paths. So this project exists, right? But it's not very well... The defaults out of the box aren't adapted for running in the browser. You've still got these weird defaults. So we might need to hack the require function, or maybe we just write our own function called net require, maybe, which will look something like this, right? Function net require path. Let's say fetch path, then God, how do you use the fetch API? I'm not a JavaScript guy. I'm not much of a front end guy. Well, we don't need a semicolon there. I mean, you never really need semicolons. Okay, I don't know what res is here. I think it's another... It's a thing. We can say, like, res.text. We can say... res.text, I think. Then we can say then... I think this is how this works. Let's see. Let's just run this and see. require. Cool. I love this. I love this. I have no idea how this works. I have no idea what I'm doing. Let's just throw some stuff at the wall. Let's also make this a better path. So let's say ./path.lua. And let's webpack this up and run it and see what happens. Function run. Okay, so yeah, we get the actual text from the Lua. That's good. That's what we want to see. So now from this text, we just need to call Lua doString. Maybe doString sync, right? Because this needs to be synchronous. And then we need to return out of this chain. Do we? We do. Because this should have a return value, right? So how do we... Can I call return from... That doesn't return... What's the pattern? What's the pattern? How do you do this in JavaScript? What do JavaScript boys like to do? So this is what we load, and then we want to return... But we want to return this here, not inside the context of this lambda. How do we do this? Response JSON. Oh, okay. That is easier than I thought. I can probably actually not do this sync. But let's do it sync for now. Sure. This is janky. Let's run it and see. Let's get it working and then worry about better JavaScript patterns later. What happens if I run you? E is undefined. E is undefined. Where is E? Load string blah 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 E. E is undefined. Where is E? Load string E. That would be because I didn't actually call this with any text. I love it. I love it. That, I mean, you know, I love a good logical error, right? An error that when you sink your teeth into it really just makes you feel bad about yourself. Console, index out of bounds. This is good though. This is good. Index out of bounds. Index out of bounds. S requires stuff. Index out of bounds. XD wrap. Load string. Do string sync. Load string C wrap. Oh yeah, so what's going on? What's out of bounds? What's out of bounds? Index out of bounds. Index out of bounds. What's out of bounds? What bounds are there to be out of? This is a runtime issue, right? So let's make the first thing we do to print, right? And then let's also put a print. Let's put a print here. Then we know that it actually loaded and started executing the file, right? This isn't just some fall over and die problem. If we change the contents of the file, okay, there we go. So between this and, well, between this and the actual execution of this file, right? So let's go even further here. Let's go even further and log this more carefully, right? So we can see what's actually being run. Running Lua, loading Lua. It executes this. Well, it tries to execute this, and then something goes wrong. Something goes wrong. What goes wrong? Index out of bounds. So is it a syntax error with this, right? Because I'm good at those. I'm really good at those. Let's rerun this with a different file. Index out of bounds. Okay. That's good, right? That's really good. That means that it's not the actual contents of the file that's the problem, if just running a file with one statement. There's something about the way that we're doing this that is wrong. Okay. Okay. Let's think. I can also dig into the source here, right? So let's have a look at my good friend doStringSync. Let's see if we can find where this problem is. Could it be that doString expects a single line? Right? Is there some weird... But Lua is all on a single line, basically. So I don't think that could be it. Wait. Lua.doStringSync. Lua. Lua's up here. We have... Lua's definitely defined. That's also important. And yeah, it is, because we can see it's actually cooling all this crap down. Resume, function wrapper, blah, blah, blah. Yep, cool. What does do file mean? This global load file. What does load file mean? This.global. Global. Okay, let's see if we can look at global and see what load file does. Because this might be a solved problem. This.global.load file. I really should check this code out so that I can do this more easily. Load file. Here we go. A thread load file. Sorry. Yeah. So okay. Lua L load file X. This.address. 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 Lua state. Thread. Okay. Okay. Lua L load file X. So I'm guessing this is just calling in, and this is what did the, looking for user local share file.lua, right? This is this is stuff that doesn't make sense in the browser. So let's look global.ts. So what other methods do we have? We have load library. And that's fine. Get set, get table, get memory, blah, 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 close constructor. That's actually not very interesting. Lua WASM, initialize, blah, this stuff's all good. Love it, love it. Engine, what does engine do? Do string, do file. So what if I try to, thread, do file sync. What's the difference between do string and do string sync? Script string, do string, do string, do string sync. So what if I just say, to do string, because this is a promise, right? Because then I can say then. I think that whole thing's redundant. That whole thing. Also maybe not returning. Okay, we've got two things to think about here, right? We just cleaned this up to work more in a promise kind of setting. Indirect cool signature mismatch. Okay, this is more promising, right? This is much more promising. What if I do this? Indirect cool signature mismatch. That's wild. Indirect cool signature mismatch. Response. Oh, for God's sake, this is base 64 encoded. Is it? I don't even know. Response. Can I view this as I hate this. I hate this. You get a real second-class experience once you're using non-JavaScript files. What is this? This is base 64 encoded, right? Echo. Yeah. What if we just have empty file, right? What if we just have empty file? What does this say? Cool signature mismatch. What does cool signature mismatch mean? I'm very confused. Lua do string. Lua.doString. We have Lua.doString down here. This is fine. Where does this come from? Cool signature mismatch, Lua new thread. Okay, so what is Lua new thread? Where does this get called? Okay. It gets called very internally, right? Very internally. Build.sh. What is this? Exported functions. Oops. EMCC. Okay, yeah. So this is a call into WASM. Indirect call signature mismatch. So what does new thread do? Async new thread call bytecode. Call bytecode. Call bytecode, which is inside doString. So I think thread new thread. This dot address. This dot address. Okay. So indirect call signature mismatch. I don't know what indirect here means as well. That's interesting. Unless there's maybe there is an indirection here. If anyone in chat has any thoughts, please feel free to shout them out, because this sounds like it's going to be a real doozy. But this is why you tried this stuff. This is why you tried doing this stuff. New thread. New thread takes a Lua state and gives us a Lua state. Zero number. Okay. So there's an issue calling new thread. Is it because of where? It shouldn't be, right? But is there a problem calling doString inside of a promise, right? Is this kind of where we are? What if I try this? Is this going to make more sense? It shouldn't, right? This should have exactly the same error, and it does. At the very least, we can stick a debugger on the... we can't really stick a debugger on this, can we? Can't really stick a debugger on this. Oh, look at this. This is... I didn't realize we could poke around this so much. Yeah, that's a thing of beauty. Okay. There's a way to tell Webpack to expose this in like a dev way. Wait, what's okay, I'm gonna have to head off in a second, unfortunately. That's not what I wanted. Webpack. What's this warning? This warning tells us fall back to production mode. Let's go web config.json. Let's go mode. Let's see if this gives us a better view. It does. Oh, it does. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Okay, so let's come in here, put a breakpoint on it. We can see that res is a promise. So what can we do? Can we come in? Can we say can we do that? I don't think that makes sense, right? It's still a promise. How do we get the value of the promise? How do we... This is where being a JavaScript scrub really comes to hurt you. I really have just never learnt these APIs, right? It's bad. It's so bad. Oh, hold on. I didn't finish reading. Async. Yeah, of course. What am I saying? But the debugger comes to the rescue, as always, right? So it resolves to a value, yeah. Can I make this an async function? I probably can't, right? That wouldn't make any sense. How do we go from sync to... How do we do this? How do we get this back inside Lua? This is really dumb. This is really dumb. But you can kind of see the problem, right? We've got inside Lua and outside Lua. We need to move from one to the other. So this is probably really obvious, right? It's probably really obvious, but there's no way to actually get the value inside this promise without then making this async. So I've got to think about this. I'm guessing the correct way to do this is to actually load all of your Lua up front. Everything that will need to be required, get them into some kind of fake place, and never require things over the net from Lua. That's probably a better model, and I think we're going to move towards that next time. But for now, this was a fun experiment in how to do this stuff, right? We did some DOM manipulation, we bound some things, we saw that this pattern works, which is really cool. You can just kind of like have JavaScript objects, bind them into Lua. Don't try and do this. Don't try and net require. I think this is more pain than it's worth, and you've watched me for like 15 minutes struggle against a really obvious issue that I should have caught sooner. You know, do this, but don't bind it into Lua. Kind of say, what are we doing? So we're going to say, let's go res dot, how do you do this? Let's maybe lua.doString. Yes, let's say t. And then the result in here is going to be, and you want to maybe, you want to do something like this, right? So you bind it, you bind your Lua script to some fixed name, but you don't wrap this in quotes. I really have to go. I've got to go get on a tram. I'm going to see a movie. So thank you very much for coming in and watching. This has been a fun experiment into Lua in the browser. We're going to continue with this. We're going to keep pushing forward and see if we can get some better stuff going. Yeah, you know, just kind of taking a break from PlayStation 2 stuff, experimenting with something new. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Tom. Get my full face up here. I'm Tom, and I'll catch you next time.